The fourth. So our goal is that we're going to shift this a little bit down to down to page 142 for Friday from 172 because we just sort of push things back a little bit. You are more than welcome to read ahead and go on from there. You don't have to wait. If you get the opportunity to read and you don't want to have to be slowed down, you can go ahead and take opportunity to read. Thank you. And more power to you on that one. The checkpoints are more of a minimum than a maximum. You are welcome to go past it. The only drawback is you're going to learn things, like those of you who finished chapter 1, you learned a thing. And then if you continue on from there, if you get into chapter 5, you are going to learn things that you cannot tell other people and stuff.
Why is it so long?
Then cover that. Again, if you are ordering the field day shirt, it is due tomorrow, so just throw that out there to help you.
You're gonna use it one time.
So your checkpoints, as far as through 2 through 4 goes, we'll talk about that here in a moment, but we're going to finish chapter 1, probably get into a little bit front and there, and then go ahead and do a reading thing. My goal is that we are going to start reading chapter 5 together tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
There is the take-home quiz. It will be open to you, which you are welcome to do. It is open after class. You're more than welcome to take it. It is due, as I think it says, doesn't say on there, it is due tomorrow at 9 a.m. It is a one take. It is 12 questions.
One take?
Oh, did I say one take? Yes, it's one take. Good job. You guys did a little echo on that one. That was fun. I figured since it's a take-home and we're not doing it together and it's 12 questions, you should be fine with it being a one take. And then from there, you should be good to go. Figure do that this evening, and then you can sort of choose if you're not done reading, you'll get the chance to then read it and submit it. And again, you can go ahead, wake up early tomorrow if you want to. Tomorrow is a somewhat normal day. I mean, it's a day with best, but it's other than that, it's a fairly normal day.
Why?
Oh, and that came for you. So they'll need you down placey place. Hopefully you are picking up on some of our sassy satire and attacky bits that are into it, which we're definitely going to get to more of here in just a moment. Let's see, there's your Florian Gilder, just to keep helping you guys out since they don't really exist anymore. You left off with Buttercup and Farm Boy, and the parents arguing with each other. There's my parents.
Oh, you got the picture!
Wait, really? Gingers existed back then? Girl, what are you talking about?
Yes.
Hey, that's an insult.
Gingers are
Ireland existed back then.
Yeah, just like maybe we didn't exist back then.
Okay. What? We are on page 61, where I left off with you guys.
We know, Kira.
I heard you. You're good.
Lipstick.
She's wearing lips.
How do you wear lips?
So,
You just have them?
page 61, right-hand side, as we're doing the argument, yelling back and forth, which sort of feels like what happens in here sometimes, between
Sometimes.
Wesley and Buttercup. Some of you guys just like yelling more than others.
Oh, yeah, that's his point.
Oh, hang on, we pass. Let's get to, there we go, this part. Oh, there. I'll go to here then.
Thank you.
I apologize.
I appreciate you.
It was dusk when she heard footsteps. I'm backing up just slightly since I'm not starting in the middle of a conversation. When, the knock. Buttercup dried her eyes. It's been a long day. Dried her eyes. Another knock. Whoever is that? Buttercup yawned finally. Wesley. Buttercup lounged across the bed. Wesley, do I know any Oh, Farm Boy, it's you. How droll. She went to her door, unlocked it, and said in her fanciest tone, I'm ever so glad you stopped by. I've been feeling just ever so slummy about the little joke I played on you this morning. Of course you knew I wasn't for a moment serious. Or at least, I thought you knew. But then, just when you started closing the door, I thought for one dreary instant that perhaps I'd done my little jest a bit too convincingly. And, poor dear thing, you might have thought I meant what I said, when of course We both know the total impossibility of that ever happening. I've come to say goodbye. Buttercup's heart bucked, but she still held to Fancy. You're going to sleep, you mean, and you've come to say goodnight. How thoughtful of you, farm boy, showing me that you forgive me for my little morning's tease. I certainly appreciate your thoughtfulness, and he cut her off. I'm leaving. Leaving? The floor began to ripple. She held to the doorframe. Now? Yes. Because of what I said this morning. Yes. I frightened you away, didn't I? I could kill my tongue. She shook her head and shook her head. Well, it's done. You've made your decision. Just remember this. I won't take you back when she's done with you. I don't care if you beg. He just looked at her. Buttercup hurried on. Just because you're beautiful and perfect, it's made you conceited. By the way, what is that a reminder of?
He's beautiful and perfect.
Well, the fact of earlier with the boys that kept flirting with her, and then they kept, and every time that she never responded, they kept yelling at her. Now she's on the other end of it when she was like,
Irony.
you just think, a little bit of irony on that one, the fact that she was all, why are you guys yelling at me? Now all of a sudden she's yelling. Oh, how the turns have tabled.
Don't ever say that. It's not.
Cringy. Oh. It's made you conceited. You think people can't get tired of you. Well, you're wrong. They can, and she will. Besides, you're too poor. Burn. I'm going to America to seek my fortune. This was just after America, but long after fortunes. A ship sails soon from London. There's great opportunity in America. I'm going to take advantage of it. I've been training myself in my hovel. I've taught myself not to need sleep. A few hours only. I'll take a 10-hour-a-day job, and then I'll take another 10-hour-a-day job, and I'll save every penny from both, except what I need to eat to keep strong. And when I have enough, I'll buy a farm and build a house and make a bed big enough for two. You're just crazy if you think she's going to be happy in some run-down farmhouse in America, not with what she spends on clothes. Stop talking about the Countess as a special favor before you drive me mad. Buttercup looked at him. Don't you understand anything that's going on? Buttercup shook her head. Wesley shook his too. You never have been the brightest, I guess. Do you love me, Wesley?
No.
Is that it? He couldn't believe it. Do I love you? My God, if your love were a grain of sand, mine would be a universe of beaches. If your love were... I don't understand the first one yet. Buttercup interrupted. She was starting to get very excited now. Okay, let me get this straight. Are you saying my love is the size of a grain of sand, and yours is the other thing? God, oh, images just confuse me. So, is this universal business of yours bigger than my sand? Oh, help me, Wesley. I have the feeling we're on the verge of something just terribly important. I have stayed these years in my hovel because of you. I have taught myself languages because of you. I have made my body strong because I thought you might be pleased by a strong body. I have lived my life with only the prayer that some sudden dawn you might glance in my direction. I have not known a moment in years when the sight of you did not send my heart careening against my ribcage. I have not known a night when your visage did not accompany me to sleep. There has not been a morning when you did not flutter behind my waking eyelids. Is any of this getting through to you, Buttercup? Or do you want me to go on for a while? Never stop. There has not been... If you're teasing me, Wesley, I'm just going to kill you. How can you even dream I might be teasing? Well, you haven't said you loved me. Oh, well, that's all you need? Easy. I love you. Okay. Oh, do you want it louder? I love you! Spell it out, should I? I-L-O-V-E-Y-O-U. Do you want it backwards? You love I. You're teasing now, aren't you? Yeah, a little, maybe. I've been trying to say it for so long, you just wouldn't listen. Every time you said, farm boy, do this, you thought I was answering, as you wish. That's only because you were hearing wrong. I love you is what it was, but you never heard, and you never heard. I hear you now, and I promise you this, I will never love anyone else, only Wesley. until I die.
Okay, this guy's way too cheesy, way too fast.
Oh, Buttercup's okay.
The
Let's
best
just
love
do
story ever.
Stupid name.
They're all stupid names.
He nodded and took a step away. I'll send for you. Believe me. Would my Wesley ever lie? He took another step. I'm late. I must go. I hate it, but I must. The ship sails soon, and London is far. I understand. He reached out with his right hand. Buttercup found it very hard to breathe. Goodbye. She managed to raise her right hand to his. Sorry. The idea of like summing up this love, they shake hands. She managed to raise her right hand. Stop it! Raise her right hand to his. They shook. Goodbye, he said again. She made a little nod. He took a third step, not turning. She watched him. He turned, and the words ripped out of her. Without one kiss! They fell. They fell into each other's arms. Now, now I can put this one up. If you need to cover your eyes, I understand.
I already went through this with the movie on...
There have been 5 great kisses since 1642 BC when Saul and Delilah Corn's inadvertent discovery swept across Western civilization. Before then, couples just hooked thumbs. And the precise rating of... By the way, that would be the sassy side. Hey, not in class. You're not hooking thumbs up here. Grace, what kind of room do you think this is? So again, the sassiness of the satire in here. The precise rating of kisses is a terribly difficult thing, often leading to great controversy because although everyone agrees with the formula of affection times purity times intensity times duration, no one has ever been completely satisfied with how much weight each element should receive. But on any system, there are 5 that everyone agrees deserve full marks. Well, this one left them all behind. The first morning after Wesley's departure, Buttercup thought she was entitled to do nothing more than sit around moping and feeling sorry for herself. After all, the love of her life had fled. Life had no meaning. How could she face the future, etc., etc., etc. But after about 2 seconds of that, she realized that Wesley was out in the world now, getting nearer and nearer to London. And what if a beautiful city girl caught his fancy while she was just back here moldering? Or worse, what if he got to America and worked his jobs, built his farm, made their bed, sent for her, and when she got there, he would look at her and go, nope, sending you back. Moping has destroyed your eyes. Self-pity has taken your skin. You are a sloppy-looking creature. I'm marrying an Indian girl who lives in a teepee nearby and is always in the peak of condition.
What?
Because that sounds like what a boy would do. Buttercup ran to her bedroom mirror.
50-50.
Oh, Wesley, I must never disappoint you. And she, women's lib. And she hurried downstairs to where her parents were squabbling, 16 to 13, and not even past breakfast yet. I need your advice. What can I do to improve my personal appearance? Start by bathing, her father said. Oh, do something with your hair while you're at it. Unearth the territory behind your ears. Neglect not your knees. Okay, that'll do nicely for starters, Buttercup said. And she shook her head. Gracious, it isn't easy being tidy. Undaunted, she set to work. Every morning she awoke, if possible by dawn, and got the farm chores finished immediately. There was much to be done now with Wesley gone, and more than that, ever since the Count had visited, everyone in the area had increased his milk order, so there was no time for self-improvement until well into the afternoon. But then she really set to work. First, a good cold bath. Then, while her hair was drying, she would slave after fixing her figure faults. One of her elbows was just too bony, the opposite wrist not bony enough, and exercise what remained of her baby fat, little of it left now, she was nearly 18, and brush her hair. Her hair was the color of autumn, and it had never been cut, so 1,000 strokes took time, but she didn't mind because Wesley had never seen it clean like this, and wouldn't he be surprised when she stepped off the boat in America? Her skin was the color of wintry cream, and she scrubbed her every inch well past glistening. And that wasn't much fun, really, but wouldn't Wesley be pleased with how clean she was as she stepped off the boat in America? And very quickly now, her potential began to be realized. From 20th, she jumped within 2 weeks to 15th, an unheard of change in such a time. But 3 weeks after that, she was already 9th and moving. The competition was tremendous now, but the day after she was 9th, a 3-page letter arrived from Wesley in London, and just reading it over put her up to 8th. That was really what was doing it for her more than anything. Her love for Wesley would not stop growing, and people were dazzled when she delivered milk in the morning. Some people were only able to gape at her, but many talked, and those that did found her warmer and gentler than she'd ever been before. Even the village girls would nod and smile now, and some of them would ask after Wesley, which was a mistake, because unless you happen to have a lot of spare time, because when someone asked Buttercup how Wesley was, well, she told him. He was supreme, as usual. He was spectacular. He was singularly fabulous, though she could go on for hours. Sometimes it got a little tough for the listeners to maintain strict attention, but they did their best since Buttercup loved him so completely. Which was why Wesley's death hit her the way it did.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, that's what makes it such a good love story.
Did he
It
die?
builds it up, and then he dies.
Wait, he's dead?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he's
So hang on. We're going to get to that now.
Watch the movie and read the book.
I
never really liked him anyway.
I don't need you guys ruining my deathy bits. Don't take it away
Someone else
from me.
my favorite.
Yeah, don't worry, he just dies.
Have you not read that?
Agreed. He had written to her, for those of you who have read ahead, or that part of it is given away in the movie, not talking about deathy bits and things like that. Don't ruin book for other people. I get to enjoy his death.
I'm enjoying
Don't
this,
be
though.
blamey, we all have issues. He had written to her just before he sailed for America. The Queen's Pride was his ship, and he loved her. That was the way his sentences always went. It's raining today, and I love you. My cold is better, and I love you. Say hello to horse, and I love you. Like that. Doesn't sound annoying at all. Then there were no letters, but that was natural. He was at sea. Then she heard she came home from delivering the milk, and her parents were wooden off the Carolina coast. Her father whispered. Her mother whispered, without warning, at night. What? From Buttercup. Pirates, said her father. Buttercup thought she'd better sit down. There was quiet in the room. He's been taken prisoner then. Her mother made a no. It was Roberts, her father said. The dread pirate Roberts. Oh, Buttercup said. The one who never leaves survivors. Yes, her father said. There was quiet in the room. Suddenly, Buttercup was talking very fast. Was he stabbed? Did he drown? Did they cut his throat asleep? Did they wake him, do you suppose? Perhaps they whipped him dead. She stood up then. I'm getting silly, forgive me. She shook her head, as if the way they got him mattered. Excuse me, please. With that, she hurried to her room. She stayed there many days. At first, her parents tried to lure her. She would not have it. They took to leaving food outside her room. She took bits and shreds, enough to stay alive. There was never noise inside, no wailing, no bitter sounds. And when she at last came out, her eyes were dry. Her parents stared up from their silent breakfast at her. They both started to rise, but she put a hand out and stopped them. I can care for myself, please. And she set about getting some food. They watched her closely. In point of fact, she had never looked as well. She had entered her room as just an impossibly lovely girl. The woman who emerged was a trifle thinner, a great deal wiser, an ocean sadder. This one understood the nature of pain, and beneath the glory of her features, there was character and a sure knowledge of suffering. She was 18. She was the most beautiful woman in 100 years. She didn't seem to care. You're all right, her mother asked. Buttercup sipped her cocoa. I'm fine. You're sure? Her father wondered. Yes, Buttercup replied. There was a very long pause. But I must never love again. And she never did.
Big L.
Best love story ever.
I agree.
That's really depressing.
What do her friends call her? Does she have like a name like
doesn't have
Cup?
friends.
Hey, C-Dog? B-Dog?
Chapter 2,
Well, she doesn't have friends.
The Groom. So as I continue to read, much like with the joyous surprise of the death of Farm Boy, sorry, maybe not joyous.
I agree with you.
It's the idea that that's what pulled me into the book is you have this whole big buildup of all this great love and the fact that it's so great, and then all of a sudden it's just like whack right in the throat. And you're like, ah, and down you go, and he dies. There are more surprises coming up. So those of you who either A, read ahead, some of the surprises are in the movie, but not all of them. Trust me. And so if you ruin surprises, you're going to make me be mean to you. So don't ruin, so like if people knew ahead of time that, like third period, they don't know yet. If the kids who have not read ahead, don't ruin it for third period and run into me like, Farm Boy dies, because that would be bad. Let them discover that pain on their own.
They have a favorite part.
That is a pain.
Third period comes after.
Was that your favorite part?
One of my favorite parts is Farm Boy dying because watching all of your guys' hearts sink. But the other favorite part is her running into the tree. For some reason, that tickles me. And then it was that whole him mocking her about love. That just really appealed to me.
Yeah.
That whole I do like Donkey. But it's the whole idea of like that love story, and he's like, "You're an idiot, and I love you." It's just so sassy. I don't know why that appeals to me.
His death was so blunt.
It was like shook hands.
There's a reason why I enjoy this book. Chapter 2, The Groom. Okay, this is my first major excision, this being William Goldman's. Thought you guys were hooking thumbs, I was getting all creeped out here. Chapter 1, The Bride, is... I do like the handshaking part too, that makes me smile. The Bride is almost in its entirety about the bride. Chapter 2, The Groom, only picks up Prince Humperdinck in the last few pages. I have... Oh, sorry, I forgot to get the crop. I thought that might make it more real for you.
Oh my god.
Oh, what are you wearing?
He looks stressy. He looks stressy.
This is the part where...
Let's take one of Farquaad.
Part we're coming up to.
Nobody's
I'm gonna picture them.
Apparently some of you guys like being sassy also. Who would have seen it coming? Anyway. Now, this chapter was where my son Jason stopped reading, and there's simply no way of blaming him. For what Morgenstern has done is open this chapter with 66 pages of Florinese history. More accurately, it is the history of the Florinese crown. Dreary? Ugh, not to be believed. Which goes back to why when he talked to Jason, and Jason was like, my favorite chapter was chapter 1. That's why this one, they cut out those first 66 pages. They're not there. Because if you actually try to read the original book, it's dreary and awful. And so that's why this one's... Ugh. Why would a master of narrative stop his narrative dead before it has much of a chance to begin generating? No known answer. All I can guess is that for Morgenstern, the real narrative was not Buttercup and the remarkable things she endures, which is rather remarkable, but rather the history of the monarchy and the other such stuff. When this version comes out, I expect every Florinese scholar alive to slaughter me. Columbia University has not only the leading Florinese experts in America, but also direct ties to the New York Times Book Review. I can't help that. And I only hope they understand my intentions here are no way meant to be destructive of Morgenstern's vision. And he's right. There's going to be a part coming up we get to at the very end of it where we find out that when he redid this one, he got skewered for cutting out big chunks of the book. But we'll get to that later. Prince Humperdinck was shaped like a barrel. His chest was a great barrel chest. His thighs, mighty barrel thighs. He was not tall, but he weighed close to 250 pounds. He was brick hard. He walked like a crab.
What do you mean?
Meaning the fact that he's strong.
Oh yeah.
Don't you hump thumbs at me, sassy child.
What are you talking about?
He walked like a crab, side to side, and probably if he'd wanted to be a ballet dancer, he would have been doomed to a miserable life of endless frustration. But He didn't want to be a ballet dancer. That was Eliana's job. He wasn't in that much of a hurry to be...
Did you say furry?
Hurry.
Hurry.
We're not talking about your... Hurry to be a king either. Even war, at which he excelled, took second place in his affections. Everything took second place in his affection. Hunting was his love. He made it a practice never to let a day go by without killing something. Now you see why I start to like Prince Humperdinck. It didn't much matter what. When he first grew dedicated, he killed only big things, elephants and pythons. But then, as his skills increased, he began to enjoy the suffering of little beasts too. He could happily spend an afternoon tracking a flying squirrel across forests or a rainbow trout down rivers. Once he was determined, once he had focused on an object, the prince was relentless. He never tired, never wavered, neither ate nor slept. It was death chess, and he was an international grand master. In the beginning, he traversed the world for opposition, but travel consumed time, ships and horses being what they were, and the time away from Florin was worrying. There always had to be a male heir to the throne, and as long as his father was alive, there was no problem. But someday his father would die, and well, then the prince would be the king, and he would have to select a queen to supply an heir for the day of his own death. So, to avoid the problem of absence, Prince Humperdinck built the Zoo of Death. He designed it himself with Count Rugen's help, and he sent his hirelings across the world to stock it for him. He kept it brimming with things that he could hunt, and it really wasn't like any other animal sanctuary anywhere. In the first place, there were never any visitors, only the albino keeper, to make sure the beasts were properly fed and that there was never any sickness or weakness inside. Willie J?
Wait, so he made this so that he didn't have to go far to hunt?
That depends. Is your iPad open right now? Okay, just I checked. The other thing about the zoo was that it was underground. The prince picked the spot himself in the quietest room. And there we stop. We begin chapter 5 tomorrow.
Chapter 5.
You are correct. Take off.
Why are they zip tied?
I missed Wesley.
Because I tried stapling them and it didn't work.
I love that single line.
You tried, you're funny. Is it off or is it off? Is it off?